Papermaking is the process of making paper, a substance which is used universally today for writing and packaging. In papermaking, a dilute suspension of fibres in water is drained through a screen, so that a mat of randomly interwoven fibres is laid down. Water is removed from this mat of fibres by pressing and drying to make paper. Since the invention of the Fourdrinier machine in the 19th century, most paper has been made from wood pulp because of cost. But other fibre sources such as cotton and textiles are used for high-quality papers. One common measure of a paper's quality is its non-wood-pulp content, for example, 25% cotton, 50% rag, etc. Previously, paper was made up of rags and hemp as well as other materials. History. Papermaking is known to have been traced back to China about 105 CE, when Kai Lun, an official attached to the imperial court during the Han Dynasty, created a sheet of paper using mulberry and other bast fibers along with fish nets, old rags, and hemp waste. However, a recent archaeological discovery has been reported from Gansu province of paper with legible Chinese writings on it dating from 8 BCE, while paper had been used in China for wrapping and padding since the 2nd century BCE. Paper used as a writing medium became widespread by the 3rd century and, by the 6th century, toilet paper was starting to be used in China as well. During the Tang dynasty, paper was folded and sewn into square bags to preserve the flavor of tea, while the later Song dynasty was the first government on earth to issue paper-printed money. In the 8th century, paper spread to the Islamic world, where the rudimentary and laborious process of paper-making was refined and machinery was designed for bulk manufacturing of paper. Production began in Baghdad where, under the supervision of the Grand Vizier Jafar ibn Yahya, they invented a method to make a thicker sheet of paper. This helped transform paper-making from an art into a major industry. The earliest use of water-powered mills in paper production, specifically the use of pulp mills for preparing the pulp for paper-making, dates back to Samarkand in the 8th century. The earliest references to paper mills also come from the medieval Islamic world, where they were first noted in the 9th century by Arabic geographers in Damascus. Paper-making was diffused across the Islamic world, from where it was diffused further west into Europe. Modern paper-making began in the early 19th century in Europe with the development of Fourdrinier machine, which produces a continuous roll of paper rather than individual sheets. These machines are considerably large, up to 150 meters in length, produce up to 10 meters wide sheet, and running around 100 km/h. In 1844, Canadian inventor Charles Feenety and German inventor F. G. Keller had invented the machine and associated process to make use of wood pulp in paper-making. This would end the nearly 2,000-year use of pulped rags and start a new era for the production of newsprint, and eventually almost all paper was made out of pulped wood. Manual papermaking, regardless of the scale on which it is done, involves making a dilute suspension of fibers in water and allowing this suspension to drain through a screen, so that a mat of randomly interwoven fibers is laid down. Water is then removed from this mat of fibers using a press. The method of manual papermaking changed very little over time, despite advances in technologies. The process of manufacturing handmade paper can be generalized into 5 steps, separating the useful fiber from the rest of raw materials. Beating down the fiber into pulp, adjusting the color, mechanical, chemical, biological, and other properties of the paper by adding special chemical premixes, screening the resulting solution. Pressing and drying to get the actual paper. Screening the fiber involves using a mesh made from non-corroding and inert material, such as aluminium, which is stretched in a wooden frame similar to that of a window. The size of the paper is governed by the size of the frame. This tool is then completely submerged in the solution vertically and drawn out horizontally to ensure a uniform coating of the wire mesh. Excess water is then removed and the wet mat of fiber laid on top of a damp cloth. The process is repeated for the required number of sheets. This stack of wet mats is then pressed in a hydraulic press very gently to ensure the fiber does not squeeze out. The fairly damp fiber is then dried using a variety of methods, such as vacuum drying or simply air drying. Sometimes, the individual sheet is rolled to flatten, harden, and refine the surface. Finally, the paper is then cut to the desired shape or the standard shape and packed. The wooden frame is called a decal. The decal leaves the edges of the paper slightly irregular and wavy, called decal edges, one of the indications that the paper was made by hand. Decal-edged paper is occasionally mechanically imitated today to create the impression of old-fashioned luxury. The impressions in paper caused by the wires in the screen that run sideways are called laid lines, and the impressions made, usually from top to bottom, by the wires holding the sideways wires together are called chain lines. Watermarks are created by weaving a design into the wires in the mold. This is essentially true of oriental molds made of other substances, such as bamboo. Handmade paper generally folds and tears more evenly along the laid lines. Handmade paper is also prepared in laboratories to study papermaking and in paper mills to check the quality of the production process. The hand sheets made according to TAPPI standard T205 are circular sheets 15.9 cm in diameter and are tested for paper characteristics such as brightness, strength and degree of sizing. Industrial paper making. A modern paper mill is divided into several sections, roughly corresponding to the processes involved in making handmade paper. Pulp is refined and mixed in water with other additives to make a pulp slurry. The head box of the paper machine distributes the slurry onto a moving continuous screen, water drains from the slurry, the wet paper sheet goes through presses and dries, and finally rolls into large rolls. The outcome often weighs several tons. Another type of paper machine makes use of a cylinder mold that rotates while partially immersed in a vat of dilute pulp. The pulp is picked up by the wire and covers the mold as it rises out of the vat. A couch roller is pressed against the mold to smooth out the pulp, and picks the wet sheet off the mold. Key inventors include Henry Fourdrinier, Heinrich Voelter and Carl Daniel Ekman, among others. History of paper sheet production. Folio. In the beginning of Western paper making, paper size was fairly standard. A page of paper is referred to as a leaf. When a leaf was printed on without being folded, the size was referred to as folio. It was roughly equal to the size of a small newspaper sheet. Quarto. A folio folded once produces 2 leaves, and the size of these leaves was referred to as quarto. Octavo. If the original sheet was folded in half again, the result was 8 pages, referred to as octavo, which is roughly the size of an average modern novel. An octavo folding produces 4 leaves. The first 2 and the second 2 will be joined at the top by the first fold. The top edge is usually trimmed to make it possible to look freely at each side of the leaf. Sometimes books are found that have not been trimmed on the top, and these pages are referred to as unopened. An octavo book produces a printing puzzle. The paper was first printed before folding and thus pages 8 and 1 are printed right side up on the bottom of the sheet, and pages 4 and 5 are printed upside down on the top of the same side of the paper. On the opposite side, pages 2 and 7 are printed right side up on the bottom of the sheet, and pages 6 and 3 are printed upside down on the top of the sheet. When the paper is folded twice and the folds trimmed, the pages fall into proper order. 16 mo. Smaller books are produced by folding the leaves again to produce 16 pages, known as a 16 mo. Other folding arrangements produce yet smaller books such as the 32 mo. Octavo book binding. When a standard-sized octavo book is produced by twice folding a large leaf, 2 leaves joined at the top will be contained in the resulting fold. This group of 8 numberable pages is called a signature or a gathering. Traditionally, printed signatures were stacked on top of each other in a sewing frame and each signature was sewn through the inner fold to the signature on top of it. The sewing ran around leather bands or fabric tapes along the backs of the signatures to stabilize the pile of signatures. The leather bands originally used in the West to stabilize the backs of sewn books appears a number of ridges under the leather on the spine of leather books. The ends of the leather strips or fabric bands were sewn or glued onto the cover boards and reinforced the hinging of the book in its covers. Standardization ISO sizes. While opinions and speculation abound on exact reasons for standardized paper sizes, the most revealing feature of popular sizes is that they conform not to some arbitrary device dimension, but that the length of the paper is chosen to be the width of the page times the square root of 2. This feature allowed for a large page to be cut in half and the resulting two pages to have the same aspect ratio as the original piece. Repeated cuts can be made to reduce the entire sheet to one size of pages without wasted paper. This format was formalized by ISO 216. However, such logic dictated efficient paper sizes long before the ISO was created. For example, traditional 8.5 inches x 11 letter paper is within a few millimeters of A4 paper dimensions. While paper sizes may have been chosen based on the size of original frames, the frames themselves were chosen to make page reduction efficient without distorting the aspect ratio of the pages regardless of final size chosen. That said, there are paper sizes that do not conform to this idea when specific applications are needed. Vatman paper. Vatman paper was a type of paper made in the Netherlands that was 17 inches wide and 44 inches long. 44 inches was chosen because that is how far the paper maker could stretch his arm. A single vatman can generally handle a mold and decal which produce up to a 25 inches wide sheet. Handmade paper. Kalpi is one of the important hubs of handmade paper industry in India. A layman can very well confuse the paper sheet as leather when it is dried in the sun. See also, bleaching of wood pulp, sizing, stickies, tree-free paper, environmental issues with paper, surface chemistry of paper, references. Further reading, Forest Products Laboratory. A OE American Woods for Papermaking. A US Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, Forest Products Laboratory, Herbert Hollick Handbook of Paper and Board, Wiley VCH, 2006, ISBN 3-527-30997-7. ISBN 978-3-527-30997-9, Cookson, Linda, How to Make Handmade Paper. A book. ISBN 0-9550272-0-9, Cropper, Mark. The Leaves We Write On. London, Ellegreen Press, La Fontaine, Gerard S. Dictionary of Terms Used in the Paper, Printing, and Allied Industries. Toronto, H. Smith Paper Mills. 110p. Weber, Charles G. and Shaw, Merle B. Experimental Manufacture of Paper for War Maps, Journal of the National Bureau of Standards 37 1946. Westerlund, Leslie C. Science and Practice of Handmade Paper. ISBN 1-876141-13-1, 2004. WES, Westerlund Leslie C. How to Make a Papermaking Hydropulper. ISBN 1-876141-44-1, 2007. WES, Westerlund Leslie C. How to Make a Papermaking Press. ISBN 1-876141-44-X, 2007. WES, Westerlund Leslie C. Dictionary of Papermaking. ISBN 1-876141-24-7, 2005. WES, Westerlund Leslie C. How to Make a Papermaking Mold and Decal. ISBN 1-876141-46-8, 2007. WES, Westerlund Leslie C. How to Make a Papermaking Couching Transfer Curve. ISBN 1-876141-49-2, 2007. WES, Westerlund Leslie C. How to Make Smooth Papermaking Technology. ISBN 1-876141-55-7. Westerlund Eco-Services. Rockingham. W. Australia. 2008. Westerlund L.C., Ho G., and M., with D., Koshi K.C., Case Study of Technology Transfer to a Fiji Rural Village Using an Improved Sustainable Turnkey Approach. Technologies and Strategic Management of Sustainable Biosystems. First International Conference. Murdoch University. W. Australia. 6 July 9, 2008. External links. The Harrison Elliott Collection at the Library of Congress has paper specimens, personal papers and research material relating to the history of papermaking.